Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing a snack video for you. So these are all of my kids' favorite healthy snack ideas. These are the ones that I will make all the time. A lot of them are really easy to go ahead and just prep ahead of time, or they're things that are really simple to throw together that my toddlers actually like to help with. So I think you guys will really enjoy all of these different snack ideas. If you are new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you. I do a lot of cooking content over on my channel, with a little bit of motherhood thrown in the mix. For this first recipe, I'm making some hummus. This is my absolute favorite. My kids love this one. They devour this. I make this at least a couple times a week, so it's definitely a really good snack idea and it's really healthy for you. So I'm just starting off with 1 can of garbanzo beans or chickpeas. You're gonna drain off all of the liquid and just set that aside because we are actually gonna use it a little bit later. So I just added those into my Ninja blender. I'm adding in 2 to 3 cloves of garlic. I'm also adding in 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, a tablespoon of some extra virgin olive oil, and then for seasonings you're going to want a 1/4 teaspoon of paprika, about 1/8 teaspoon of some ground cumin, and then you're going to want a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper as well as some sea salt. Of course you can adjust those seasonings if you want, but this is my favorite combination, so that's what I always do. And then you're actually going to take some of that liquid that we drained off earlier. You're just going to add it into your blender and blend it up until you get the consistency that you like. Now you can make yours a little bit on the thinner side or the thicker. It really is just personal preference, but definitely make sure that this is really nice and blended together so it gets really nice and creamy. We really like to enjoy this hummus cold, so I will always chill it and serve it for a snack either in the morning or the afternoon, but I do like to make sure that it's nice and cold. We like to serve this with either sliced up peppers or cucumbers and crackers. That's definitely our favorite combination. Or my daughter will actually just eat this by the spoonful. She absolutely loves this hummus. This is a really simple one to throw together. I definitely recommend trying this one out because personally I don't really like hummus from the store, but for some reason this is just a really good recipe, and it's also way cheaper to make your own hummus at home. So definitely give this one a shot. Even if you don't think you like hummus, you might be surprised. Now for this next recipe, I'm making some yogurt bites. So I'm actually doing some yogurt covered blueberries as well as just some plain yogurt drops. Both of these are one of my kids' all-time favorites. I love to have them in the freezer pretty much at all times. It's a go-to snack in our house, especially if they're wanting something a little bit on the sweeter side. Like if my son asks for ice cream, a lot of times I will give him these and he loves them. So I'm just starting off with some plain strawberry yogurt. This isn't the Greek yogurt, this is just the regular one, but I've definitely used Greek yogurt many times and it turns out really well. A lot of times I'm actually using the vanilla Greek yogurt for this, and my kids love that one too. So I am going to line my baking sheet with some wax paper. You're definitely going to want either wax paper or parchment paper, or these are going to stick to your baking sheet. So I'm just cutting off the corner of my Ziploc bag. I do like to make it a pretty small opening because I like these to be small bites for my kids, so they're not a choking hazard or anything. They'll just melt right down in their little mouths, but they absolutely love these, and all you've got to do is make little dots on your wax paper and you are good to go. I should mention that another option with the yogurt is that you can actually make yogurt bark. So instead of making little drops, you can just spread this out in a really thin layer, top it with some fruit, and then when it's frozen, you can actually crack it apart and it'll make like little bark pieces. I've done it that way too, and it does turn out really good. But for my toddlers, I really like these smaller bites. I find that it's a little bit less messy. So I'm doing the majority of the cookie sheet with these yogurt bites, and then I had a little bit of this yogurt left over in the bag. So I'm just squeezing that into a little separate bowl, and I'm actually going to be dipping some fresh blueberries in there. Now I don't make these quite as much just because it's a little bit more time consuming, but my kids absolutely love these little yogurt dipped blueberries. It's a really fun treat. I also really love them. When my dad comes over, he loves to eat them. They're definitely a really good sweet treat, and they're so healthy for you. So definitely a really great sweet treat option. So all you've got to do is wash your fresh blueberries, dip them in the yogurt, and layer them onto your cookie sheet. So once you have all of these little yogurt blueberries dipped and the yogurt drops on your baking sheet, all you're gonna do is pop them into the freezer. They don't take very long at all to freeze. I will usually throw them in for about an hour. That's all that it takes, and then you're just going to store them in a freezer safe container. I just have these little Rubbermaid containers that I will put mine in, and then you're just gonna throw them right in your freezer for storage. So this is great. They're all prepped and ready to go when your kids want a little snack, and you can feel good giving them to them because they're actually a pretty healthy snack for the kids. This is my favorite treat to give my kids if they are wanting something really sweet like ice cream or a popsicle, fruit snacks, that sort of thing. This is usually what I will pull out of my freezer and give to them, and I feel so much better giving them this over something like ice cream. This next snack recipe is one of my favorites to throw together actually with my kids because it's really simple for them to help with. It only has 3 ingredients, so it's definitely a really easy one for that. So all you're going to need is half a cup of some creamy peanut butter. This is the smooth kind. And then you're also going to want about a 1/3 cup of honey, and you're just gonna add both of these into a small saucepan, and then we're actually just gonna melt this on the stove over medium heat. You're gonna want it to combine together until it's really nice and kind of liquidy. It'll kind of melt down to where everything's really well combined, and then you'll know that it's ready to pour over your Cheerios. So while that is heating up on the stove, I'm just getting my pan ready. So if you want them to be more of a bar shape, you can do this in a bread pan actually, and it will work really well. But on this day, I was going for more squares, so I'm just using a larger pan. And then for the Cheerios, normally I will use the regular Cheerios. On this day, I actually tried them with the Honey Nut Cheerios, and they turned out pretty good. They were just a little bit sweeter. So I'm measuring out about 2 cups of the Cheerios while that peanut butter mixture is melting down. So once that's all melted, then you can add in your 2 cups of Cheerios and just stir all of that together until it's all combined. And then all you've got to do is just make sure that you have some wax paper in your pan, and then you're just going to spoon this whole mixture right across the bottom of your sheet. Whatever kind of pan you're using is totally fine. It's just going to change the shape of the Cheerio bars. So I'm just pressing that down, and then I'm going to let this cool for about an hour Or if you need it to be done a little bit quicker, you can actually just pop it in the fridge and it will get done really fast that way. So I definitely do that sometimes. Once the bars have cooled a little bit, they will kind of harden up, so it's easy to cut them. So I'm just using my knife to cut them into a little bit of a bar shape, and these will last for a couple of days. That's why I like to make a smaller batch. I'm gonna link the original recipe that I followed for these down below, but I've kind of tweaked the measurements just a little bit to where it's a smaller batch for my family. For this next recipe, I'm making some pumpkin energy bites, and this is definitely one of my favorites, especially in the fall time. My kids really like this one, and it's a really good sweet treat for them that I don't feel guilty giving them. So I'm starting off with about a 1/4 cup of honey. You're going to want 1/2 cup of creamy peanut butter, and then I do also like to add in my pumpkin, so you're going to want about a 1/4 cup of that. I probably use a little bit more than a 1/4 cup just because I really like the pumpkin, and then I'm also adding in just a little splash of vanilla. I always like to mix up all of my wet ingredients first. I just find it to be a little bit easier. Next, I like to add in all of my different spices just to make sure it's really well combined before adding in my dry ingredients. So you're going to want 1½ teaspoons of ground cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of some ground ginger, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and then 1/8 teaspoon of ground cloves with just a little pinch of some sea salt in there. I will have this full recipe linked down below for you guys, so it's really easy for you to follow along with. Now I'm adding in 1 tablespoon of chia seeds, about a 1/4 cup of some ground flaxseed. I usually will just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be exact here. And then you're going to want about 1¼ cup of some oats. I have used both rolled oats for this one or quick oats. Either will work just fine. I really have no preference, but just add about 1¼ cup of those in there, and then just mix all of this together. Once you have it all combined, you're actually going to want to cover it up and pop it into your fridge and let it sit in there for about 15 minutes just to kind of firm up before you actually roll them into balls. And then you're just going to roll out these little energy balls. You can make them a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, just depending on what your family needs. I usually will make a little bit of both because I like to give my kids the smaller ones and then I will eat the larger ones. Another thing that I should mention is that you can add mini chocolate chips to this recipe, and it's also really good that way. So you can go ahead and add those in if you want. That is what the original recipe calls for. But again, I have done them with the chocolate and without, and they're both really delicious. So I decided to skip it on this day because the next recipe actually has some chocolate in it. Now we are moving on to making my mom's recipe. I'm making some pumpkin oatmeal cookies. This was always one of my favorites growing up, and my kids absolutely love this one as well. It's not quite as healthy, but it's still a lot better for you than like store-bought cookies. So into my stand mixer here, I'm adding in about 3/4 cup of some butter. I'm adding in 1 cup of brown sugar and then about 1/2 cup of some white sugar, and I'm just creaming that together. Once it's really nice and creamy, I'm adding in 1 egg and about a teaspoon of some vanilla extract, and then you're also going to want to add in 1 cup of some pumpkin puree. Once you have all of the wet ingredients combined together, you're going to want to add in all of your dry ingredients. So I have about 2½ cups of regular all-purpose flour. You're going to want 1 heaping cup of rolled oats. You're also going to want 1 teaspoon of baking soda, a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, as well as about 1/2 teaspoon of some salt, and just get all of that mixed together. You're going to want to combine this really well before adding in your chocolate chips. Now when it comes to adding in the chocolate chips, you can use the mini kind or you can also use the regular ones. I personally prefer the mini ones just because I like to have a little bit of chocolate in every single bite. I'm adding in probably about 3/4 cup of chocolate chips, but of course you can add a little bit more or a little bit less here, just depending on your personal preferences. And then I'm just heading over to my island, spraying my cookie sheets. I am using the air baked cookie sheets. I've talked about these before before. They're definitely the best when it comes to making cookies. This is what my mom always used, and I think they turn out so much better. So I'm gonna link the ones that I have down below. I definitely really recommend them if you make cookies a lot. The cookies turn out so much better that way. But then I'm just taking my cookie dough scoop and I'm scooping out about a 1/4 cup into each cookie, and then these are gonna go right into a 350-degree oven for right around 15 to 20 minutes. You'll know that they are done when they get nice and firm. That is actually going to wrap up today's video. I really hope that you all enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you have not already. I would love to have you over on my channel. I share a lot of cooking content along with some motherhood. So if that is something that you're interested in, make sure you are subscribed. But I will catch you all in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.